You are now entering a dangerous liberty zone where God-given natural rights are held sacred and exercised. This is your warning. Tyranny, fascism, and censorship will not be tolerated. Ideas will be exchanged freely. Rigorous debate and open discourse is encouraged. If you are weak and your beliefs are fragile, you should leave now. Prepare yourself. We are now live on the Dangerous Liberty Podcast. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Dangerous Liberty Podcast, where we know the only thing more dangerous than liberty is a lack thereof. I want to say hello to everybody out there. We got Jason T.G. Sponsor. We got Mike Hen. Who else we got coming out there? Summer, how was your week?
It's been good.
Yeah, been good. Another wonderful week married to me. I will say that my wife gets the Wife of the Year award for such a fabulous Father's Day present that we have up there. I wish I could zoom in. Actually, I wish I could hold it, but you know.
You could put it on a little stand right here.
I guess I could have. You know, YouTube is an anti-gun commie. So anyways, we'll take it as. Well, I see some other people tuning in. Make sure you guys say hi up there. We have a interesting episode, I think, that we're going to find with this one. We're going to deep dive into some of the things going on with the ATF. And the more I'm learning about the particular case that we're going to talk about tonight, the more disturbing it actually is. I mean, it is right up there in my mind with Ruby Ridge, Waco, and it is insane of what's happening with the ATF. And the ATF under the Biden administration has become one of the most anti-American, fascist agencies out there, and it's definitely becoming just a militant wing of our government that is going after the everyday person like we have never seen before. So we're going to get heavy into that. I want to take you guys through this story about Bryan Malinowski, and it really is. It's nuts. So, you know, we'll get into that. I definitely want to say hi to Ted Boyette, Mr. Unknown User. I don't know who that is. Cat Dad, we want to say hi to you. But before we get into the craziness that's going on, we definitely have seen some major wins in regards to the ATF and, you know, the Second Amendment. You know, we recently, they have ruled on, we have the SCOTUS that actually ruled on bump stocks. That in itself is, you know, that was one of the things that the Trump administration actually pushed into play. And hopefully he's got some smart advisors in there that are, you know, look, at the end of the day, Trump's a New Yorker. I don't know what else to say other than that. I love his economic policies.
Sorry, John Walsh, if you're on here.
Yeah. Sorry, John Walsh. Sorry to all you other New Yorkers that know nothing about the Second Amendment, what it's about, why it exists. And yeah, hopefully he does a better job at defending the Second Amendment this time around, and you know, hopefully he becomes president.
I was just more excited to see the mindset of the SCOTUS right now.
Yeah, no,
you know, I couldn't care less about bump stocks, but it was exciting to see where, you know, what they're thinking.
Yeah, and we also had a ruling, obviously, on the pistol brace. Hopefully that is dead and gone, but I still think that'll probably end up in front of the Supreme Court. And then finally engaged in business, which I think is really the crux of the matter, the thing that we're going to be talking about tonight, because it was one of the pivotal laws that ended up in a law-abiding citizen's death that should have never taken place.
But didn't that came before the rule of engaged in the business was put into place, didn't it?
No.
Didn't that happen before?
No. It was one of the main.
I thought that they had been investigating him for years because they thought he wasn't a hobbyist.
No. We'll get into that. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there on this. There were some things that I definitely didn't know, and we're gonna take a deep dive into that. But yeah, you know, I guess without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump into this. I put together a quick video. We'll stop every now and then, talk about it. You guys comment over there as we play along with this. But I'm going to throw this up here, and we're going to play this.
My name is Bud Cummins. I'm an attorney for Brian Malinowski's family, and I'm a former United States attorney from the Eastern District of Arkansas. I want to tell you a little bit, Mr. Chairman, about Brian Malinowski. Until 2 months ago, Brian was the executive director of the Bill and Hillary Clinton National Airport in Little Rock. He was 53 years old. He and his wife, who's present with us today, Mayor, celebrated their 25th anniversary last December, and he had many, many good friends. He grew up in Pennsylvania with his brother and his two sisters, became a certified flight instructor, got a college degree, and went into the airport management industry. And he had several stops along the way in Pennsylvania, Florida, but in El Paso, Texas, is where he met his wife, Mare, and as I said, they've been married 25 years. He found his way to Little Rock and eventually was named the executive director of our airport. Brian was also a lifelong collector. As a child, he started collecting coins. He had various hobbies. He was that guy. About 6 years ago, Brian's father gave him his gun collection, and that sparked a collection interest in Brian. And since then, he has become also a gun collector. And he found at gun shows, he found other people who shared his enthusiasm and his interest in not only guns, but in coins and other artifacts that you'll find at a gun show. He'd set up a table on weekends occasionally, and he'd display some of his guns, and he'd display his coins, and he would buy and sell and trade with other collectors. It is legal to buy and sell and trade firearms without a federal firearms license if you are a collector or a hobbyist. At some point, ATF suspected that Brian Malinowski may have crossed a very murky line, and he was no longer a hobbyist. Because of that, ATF concluded that he was required to buy a $200 FFL, federal firearms license, before he sold any more guns.
And so the ATF has a final rule. I think the comments and the rule itself accumulate to about 466 pages that define who is engaged in the business of firearms dealing. So how many firearms does someone have to sell to be engaged in the business of firearm dealing?
Congressman, as you know, that matter is being litigated in several courts. So sticking to what's already in the public record, the rule itself is 16 pages, skipping lines. And there's about, as you say, over 400 pages of explanation.
Yeah.
And so there are factors that are conduct-based, not numerical-based, but conduct-based. We received many comments. One of the comments that we received was from, I think, Senator Cornyn.
Folks, this guy, I'm sorry, but I don't know how much testimony you've heard from Steve Dettelbach here, but he might be the biggest turd basket that you would ever put in front of an agency. And you're going to know exactly that he's going to say and do everything that the executive branch tells him to say and do. He is just an absolute mouthpiece that has no opinion of his own, and he is just there to he's just there to say and do whatever he's told to say and do. And it's I almost can't stand to even watch the guy
Who expressed a view that there was no numerical threshold. Others had a different view.
Yeah. In the House Judiciary Committee, we probably won't look to Senator Cornyn as the oracle of all things gun rights. But, so you're saying there really is no number?
I'm saying that Congress, our job is to implement the statute that Congress writes.
Yeah, no, but
Congress
just like for a regular person that one form or another acquires guns, and they're trying to figure out, how many of these guns do I sell before I have to register as a dealer? What you're saying is there is no bright line there.
I'm saying that there's now more information than ever in the form of that rule for specific conduct-based.
I think just for a regular person, more information than ever is probably less helpful than if you sell 3 guns, you're not a dealer, and if you sell 4 guns, then you are a dealer, right? And this rule that you guys have drafted, it's currently enjoined, right? It has no effect?
There are 3 cases that I know of, maybe more going on now. One of the judges has issued equitable relief.
So in Texas, a judge has stopped the implementation of this law for 3 reasons. One is that there's no minimum requirement. And the court has found, this court in Texas, that you aren't just giving effect and life to Congress's statutes. You've in fact exceeded your authority, because Congress would have never allowed some sort of sliding scale where 16 pages of single-spaced whatever determines whether or not you're a firearm dealer, not how many guns you sell. There's a second reason that court in Texas said that this would not have effect, and it's that actual profit is not a requirement of the statute, only the predominant intent for profit. How do you understand that ruling?
Again, that's in litigation.
It
The
does.
Department of Justice's positions on each and every one of these matters is public. It is laid out in many, many pages of briefing. And so I would ask people to look at our briefs that we filed in the court, and I would commend your
No,
attention
but if
to them.
it's just someone's just trying to figure out whether or not they have to get a federal license or be subject to your guys breaking their doors down and potentially killing them, you would think that you'd want that to be easily understandable. And here, even if someone isn't turning a profit, but they might want to turn a profit, they could be subject to this regulation, and the court found that troubling. And then
Yeah, this is one of the best cases to highlight the fact that every time that even the most minor of laws are passed, folks, you need to ask yourself, hey, is this law worth enforcing over the life of somebody? And this is one of those things that people don't get, right? Every single, even the most minor of laws that sound like such a good idea, at the end of the day are going to be backed by lethal force. And man, when you have laws that are so absolutely arbitrary and open to your own interpretation. And I know guys at the ATF, and the people at the ATF don't know what the hell they're doing. They don't know the answers. We call the ATF as FFLs in Class 3 dealers, right? And we call them up and we ask them questions. Hey, look, we're doing our best to stay within the confines of the law so that we can continue on with our livelihood. And these people that we're calling, the agency that administrates these laws, don't have clear answers. They don't know what is going on half the time, and yet they expect every single American out there, without any warning whatsoever, to make sure that they're following these laws that are arbitrary, completely open and subjective. And yet, we have this jackass up here that's talking about, oh, look, there's pages and pages and pages. Well, that is the absolute problem. Our laws were never meant to be written in a way that we need 10 lawyers to figure out what these laws mean. And yeah, part of this is Congress's problem, but the other part is that we have an administration that is mobilizing the ATF as a militaristic wing, going out there and crushing people that support and defend the Second Amendment. That's what it is for right now. That's what the ATF is doing. And unfortunately, we got too many people in the ATF that just go along with this. But let's.
third reason the court identified is that your rule doesn't just give meaning to Congress's statute, but that, quote, arbitrarily eviscerates the safe harbor provision. So there's a safe harbor provision of this law that says if you're just engaged in the occasional sale or exchange or purchase of a firearm for a personal collection or a hobby, that this regulatory structure wouldn't affect you. But what the court is saying here in blocking your rule is that you have eviscerated the safe harbor that exists for the hobbyist. Do you have a reaction to that ruling?
Again, yes, our position is not that, but it's under litigation. We have filed extensive.
I know, but here we
briefs on
are.
this.
Make your argument. Well, I mean, they're sitting here in court trying to figure out what Congress means. What we're saying is there should definitely be a bright line in terms of guns. You shouldn't have to have this pondering question about profit motive, and you shouldn't eviscerate the safe harbor. That's what we're saying. So what's your argument as to why the safe harbor should be eviscerated?
Our argument is to look to the statute that Congress wrote. The statute that Congress wrote, and I just want to make clear that people understand this. There was an earlier comment about the word livelihood. That's not in the law anymore that Congress wrote. Congress took that out of the law. It doesn't exist anymore. So we start with the statute. That's where things always begin and end,
I know you started with the statute, but what this court is saying is that you have exceeded the statute. You've done it in a way that eviscerates the safe harbor, that blurs the lines, and that creates no discernible way for people to comply with the law. And the reason I think you guys are doing that is you want to make it more difficult for people to engage in the legal, lawful, and constitutionally contemplated manner to transfer firearms, and you're trying to criminalize an entire enterprise. And that's why you see us trying to curtail some of your funding and your authorities.
One thing is certain. His family and his friends and all his work colleagues would all guarantee you, if they were here today, that he loved his career and he loved being in the airport management business. And if anybody had ever suggested to him that his weekend hobby was in any way threatening that, he would have immediately been hands off. But nobody told him.
So, here's this guy thinking, and again, we are all going to read laws and we're all going to interpret them the way that we see them, or resist some coercion, for instance. And that's what this sounds like. He's like, hey, look, man, I'm just a collector. I'm buying and selling these things as a collector, and what I'm doing as a private citizen. This isn't something that I'm doing to make money. The guy was making almost $300,000 a year as an executive for the local airport. So, this wasn't something that he needed. He felt like he was exercising his Second Amendment rights. And, the ATF did apparently come and say, hey, you need to get an FFL. Well, you know what? Screw you. If you're gonna bring some sort of charges, go ahead and do that or whatever. But the fact of the matter is they end up surveilling this guy for weeks. They end up turning this into something that it's completely not. You can look at this guy. This guy was, for all intents and purposes, kind of a nerd. That's what this guy was. He was not a lethal threat whatsoever. And the steps that they took to ultimately exercise that search warrant are just absolutely insane. And it's something that every single American out there needs to know about, because there's a lot of bad information. The information that you guys already heard is not something that's being put out by the mainstream media. They're making this guy look like he was some sort of gun runner. I literally looked at forums today talking about that's essentially what he was.
Are you just going to kind of run through very quickly what happened that morning?
I'm going to let them talk. I'm
Gotcha.
getting ready to do that.
Some people might not know.
Welcome to the show.
Instead, ATF launched a criminal investigation into Brian. They researched his background. They put a tracker on his car. They put tails on him and surveilled him. And soon they obtained a search warrant to search his home. By the time they obtained the warrant, they knew a lot about Brian. They knew he worked in a secure environment at the airport. They knew he had lived a law-abiding life with absolutely no criminal history. And they knew he lived at home with his wife and his 2 dogs, and they kept a very regular schedule. Despite all this knowledge, ATF hatched a plan to execute the warrant by force. And on March 19th at 6:01 a.m., over 1 hour before sunup, 10 carloads of ATF agents and Little Rock Police Department officers came to the Malinowski home to execute the search warrant. They wore full tactical SWAT gear, and they approached the door at 6:02 and 46 seconds a.m. They had a piece of tape ready, and they covered up his doorbell camera. So if he had time to wonder who was at the door, I think people get a doorbell camera to see who's at the front door, but they took away his ability to do that. Months later, Mrs. Malinowski heard a loud crash as their front door caved in, and fearing for his wife's safety, Brian jumped up at the sound of a crash, found a pistol, loaded a magazine in it, and left the bedroom to investigate. He warned his wife to stay behind him in the bedroom, but she stubbornly followed him through the doorway. It appears to us that ATF also killed the electricity to the home, making it difficult for Brian to see in the pre-dawn hours. Mrs. Malinowski saw only darkness as she peered down towards the front entryway and could see shadowy outlines of presumed home invaders standing in her front hallway. That's what Brian saw too. There was gunfire, and Brian was fatally wounded. His wife was standing just a few inches from him when he received a fatal wound to his head. We don't know all the details of what happened at the front door because they covered up the Ring camera and because they didn't wear body cameras in spite of a 3-year-old policy initiated by the President of the United States that mandated that they wear body cameras when executing search warrants.
Yeah, so let's talk about a couple things. Number one, Kurt makes an excellent point here. And that's what is the real problem with so many of these federal agencies and what they've been turned into and how politicized they've been turned in the last couple of years. And we see that with the FBI. We definitely see that with the ATF. And you know, at the end of the day, with the volumes of different laws, both state, local, and federal, you know, once an agency has their sights on you for whatever reason, look, you're going to end up in cuffs one way or another. And that is a real tragedy because you know, I remember there was a book out several years ago, something along the lines of how the average person, you know, commits like 6 felonies a day, just going through our daily lives. And we have a government that's out of control. We definitely have these federal agencies that are out of control. And when we have something that is clearly protected by the U.S. Constitution, the Second Amendment, being able to buy, personally sell, especially if you're not engaged in a business. And at the end of the day, why do you know, there's some real questions that need to be asked on why do you need a specific license to sell and sell and buy guns? I mean, and that's, you know, it's a constitutionally protected activity to begin with. And then the other farce of it is this FFL, federal firearms license. There's nothing federal about that firearms license other than that you're sending money to the U.S. government. And that's what this really is. You know, it's if he'd gotten a FFL and he was documenting this, if he paid the taxes that our king wants us to pay, then he would have been just fine. And, you know, just like Kurt says here, if they can go after this guy, they can go after anybody.
Well, my whole thought is, of course, and this is for millions of people in this country, freaking in the dark, they're asleep, they hear loud noises and someone break into their home, they're gonna grab something to protect themselves.
Absolutely.
And it's dark, they can't see, they just see figures coming into the house. What is anyone gonna do? They're gonna do
100%.
the same thing.
Yeah, and there's no justifiable reason for them to execute that warrant the way that they did.
No, go
So,
during the day.
It should have been done completely differently. But let's get into this a little bit more. Oh, speaking of which, going back to what he's talking about, you know, Joe Biden issued an executive order on March 25th, 2022. The executive order on advancing effective, accountable policing and criminal justice practices to enhance public trust and public safety. Section 10 of this is restricting no-knock entries. Exactly what they executed here. The heads of all federal
The
law
warrant
enforcement.
didn't have a no-knock provision, though, did it?
It did, I believe
It
so.
did?
Yeah,
I thought I read
believe
that
it
it
did.
didn't.
Regardless, we
Yeah.
have a federal agency that is definitely conducting a no-knock warrant, regardless of
I
what
understand that. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
usually they have to get that approved in the warrant, right?
Well, the heads of the federal law enforcement agencies shall, as soon as practical, but no later than 60 days from the date of this order, ensure that their respective agencies issue policies with requirements that are equivalent to basically, hey, look, you need to limit any sort. It needs to be extraordinary circumstances if you're going to execute a no-knock warrant. Under their own rules, the federal government rules that was put out with this executive order is soon as practicable, no later than 90 days from the date of this order, the heads of federal law enforcement agencies shall ensure that their respective agencies issue policies with requirements regarding body-worn cameras. So, you know, they weren't wearing cameras. And we're going to talk a little bit more about his reasoning why they weren't wearing cameras, which is pretty ridiculous as well.
Concerning body cams, you testified that the rollout within ATF was incomplete. Is it your testimony that the rollout has not extended to ATF personnel in Arkansas, and that's the reason they didn't have body cams?
The field division that covers Arkansas has not yet been implemented. That's correct.
Okay. And you said, what did you say the cost was of your item there? Something in the tens of millions. Was it 40 million, 45 million?
This isn't the downstream costs because there's huge data costs, as you know, with this. But the initial implementation
body cams
cost,
in.
the request in the budget is $37.5 million.
37 million. So I understand your budget.
All right, so let's talk about that for just a second. So 37.5 million I looked it up. The ATF has field offices and satellites, a total of 471 field offices and satellite offices. So 471 nationwide. 337.5 million divided by 471 is 79,000 per office. That comes out if there's 12 people that are getting cameras. Not first of all, a majority of these satellite officers aren't going to be getting them. A majority of people aren't going to be getting them. The vast majority, like 90% plus of ATF, are not out there searching, serving search warrants and are on task force. So if we just had 12 people per office, given all of those, that'd be over $6,600 per body cam.
How much does a body cam cost?
Not $6,000.
Like,
Freaking put a GoPro on yourself and freaking go. And then I don't know how many millions or billions they're going to end up spending a 10-year plan of storing all this data. So they can't come up with 37.5 million. And then he touches on it. I think it ends up being like 2.5% of their ridiculous budget. We can't get body cameras to protect the rights of American citizens, but we can send billions of dollars over to Ukraine and to all these other countries that don't like us, don't need us, where we shouldn't be involved in, but we can't protect our own American people. So if all of this collectively isn't enough to make your blood boil, well, I don't know what to tell you.
1.7. Well, your budget's about 1.7 billion. So if my calculator is right, that's about 2.6% of your budget. You couldn't find 2.6% of your budget to catch up with common practice among also resource-constrained city police departments all over the country?
Respectfully, our budget is not 1.7, it's 1.625.
Whatever.
And the reason I know that is because that $45 million cut has resulted in not being able to hire agents.
Yeah, but you're
It has
talking about
resulted in
something else.
cutting-
I'm talking about body cams that are in common use among metropolitan police departments across this country. And you're saying something that involves 2 or 3% of your budget prevented you from getting it done?
I'm saying that we're in the process, as we said from the beginning, of implementing the policy in phases.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Director.
We continue.
Mr. Director, let me ask you this question. I understand there could be justifications for lots of things about putting tape on, jamming signals, things like that in a certain set of circumstances. What can possibly justify deferring, as that video showed, deferring the execution of that search warrant until the person who justifies the use of such tactics, if there's a question of a risk of violence, was present in the home?
These are career law enforcement agents
I didn't
and police,
ask that.
and
I
they
asked
make
you-
determinations.
I asked you what could possibly justify that.
But we do know this. We know 57 seconds elapsed from the time they covered up the lens of the camera to the time Mr. Malinowski was dead. So something less than 57 seconds is the time it took them to knock, if they knocked, but we don't know if they knocked, force entry on the front door, and for Mr. Malinowski to emerge, to wake up, find a gun, and come to the bedroom. That means they couldn't have been at the front door more than 20 or 30 seconds. Although her husband had just been shot in the forehead right in front of her, the agents dragged Mrs. Malinowski into the front yard. She was barefoot, wearing minimal night clothing, and the temperature was 32 degrees. They locked her in the back seat of a car where she was detained for 4 or 5 hours. I've been involved in public controversy for many years. I've never been involved in anything that more Kansans have come to me to express their concern. And they all ask the same question. Why?
Why was the question at the heart of Wednesday's congressional hearing. Why did the ATF investigate Brian Malinowski for privately selling 9 firearms? And why did they kick down the door of his home to serve a search warrant at 6 a.m.?
We know ATF abandoned a previous attempt to execute the search warrant when they learned Mr. Malinowski wasn't home. They were actually primed and ready to go the week before, but didn't go because he wasn't there. Why did they need him to be in the home, as this was a search warrant and not an arrest warrant?
They want the target there because they want to surprise them. And this is part of the reason they go at 6 in the morning. They want to surprise them. They want them in their night clothes. They want their hair stand up. They want them scared, angry, shocked. And then they want to violate their Fifth Amendment right to not incriminate themselves before they remember they have a Sixth Amendment right to call their lawyer.
Did he have any knowledge or understanding that he was being investigated for any type of crime?
Well, obviously, he's not available for me to ask that question to, but to the best of my knowledge and based on our investigation, the answer is no.
The investigation led to the March 19th encounter inside a Chenal Valley home. Confronted with what he and his wife believed were intruders, Malinowski grabbed a gun and fired a single shot at federal agents. When they returned fire, he was mortally wounded.
Yeah. So again, you know, if that doesn't make you at least half as angry as it makes me, man, you need to look at, I don't even know what to tell you, but the fact of the matter is we have a weaponized federal agency. And I'll tell you, is there any other agency out there that has earned the need to make sure that they have body cameras on them between Waco, between Ruby Ridge? We have an ATF that I'll tell you, anybody that was in charge of that entire operation, they should be fired. They put themselves, their officers at needless risk. They killed a U.S. citizen, an American taxpayer, for absolutely no reason. There's no reason that he shouldn't have been arrested at work or pulled out during a traffic stop, something along those lines. For them to take on that much risk for what? For a guy that has never... He has no criminal history
They could have had
whatsoever.
agents arresting him at work while agents were serving the search warrant. 100%.
100%. But the reason behind that, we all know, you know, when you have a toy, when the ATF has something like a SWAT team or SRT, whatever they define them as, if they're not using them, they lose that funding for them. If they're not justified in having that asset, and having that resource, they're going to lose that funding. And, you know, quite frankly, the ATF of all people should not, of all agencies, should not have any sort of SWAT or special reaction team whatsoever. They've just proven themselves, and this is another case where they've proven themselves to use it in a way that is detrimental to freedom, detrimental to American ideals, and detrimental to our Constitution.
Detrimental to Americans, period.
100%. And
American life.
And especially when we have a situation already. Look, you know, we have all of these different agencies and institutions that the American people do need faith in. And we should have the trust and faith in these institutions to do the right thing. But we see time and time again that they're not. And I'll be the first one to let you know, and I'm definitely very aware that, you know, President Trump coming in, a Republican president, isn't going to fix that. We have a bunch of unelected leaders making decisions, life or death decisions, and they are held. They're not held accountable at all. And this is just another case where we have these agencies, you know, again, just going out and trampling your rights. And everybody out there, regardless, I don't care if the guy sold 3,000 guns, that should not have taken place. Yeah. This is absolutely right. No money for body-worn cameras is laughable. They definitely have plenty of money out there. What'd you think, Summer?
I think it could easily have happened to us as it did to him. That's the part that scares me.
That is the scary part. And you know what? Getting on here, given the fact that we make money, we make our living. What we do requires
We're taking a huge risk even having this podcast.
And it's crazy to me.
Yeah.
And the fact that, you know, I sit back there and I prepare for this show and I worry about that is absolutely insane, because it's absolutely
We'll
true.
be targeted for speaking out.
100% you will. And you know what? That just steals my resolve. That is not the country that I fought for, that I went to war for. And I'm not going to allow these intimidation tactics change the country that I know and love. I'm just not going to allow it to do it. And you know what? If hopefully that is not the case, hopefully we have some people that make some good decisions up there that continue to respect the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. But we have never seen our rights more under attack by our own federal government than I think ever before.
I'm a little shocked, but in a way not, that the ATF, knowing that they're like probably the most hated federal agency,
They don't care.
That they would do something so egregious and make themselves even more hated. That, or they thought that they were just so powerful that they would get swept under the rug and there's going to be no issue at all. I don't know which is or they, like you said, I'm sure they just don't care, but they certainly aren't winning any hearts and minds.
No, they don't. They don't care about that at all. You know, if for those of you that have worked in different federal agencies, you know, there's a little bit of concern when Congress gets in your stuff and you start having heads of
This
your
ATF
bureaus.
guy doesn't seem concerned at all.
No, they're not.
He seems, what's the word I'm looking for?
Like-
he almost flippant.
He's like a retarded Jerry Lewis that is running one of the most powerful agencies in the world.
Jason said he looks like Gru from Despicable Me. he does.
Yeah. But, you know, this is the same agency, again, that is changing definitions left and right. You know, when we had a 12 years of the pistol brace being declared, hey, this is okay, there's nothing wrong with it. And then
Oh, we changed our minds.
we've changed our minds. We cannot live in a society, we cannot live in a country where agencies feel like they can just subjectively and arbitrarily change laws, because that's what they're doing. And luckily, we've had some courts step in place and make the right call, but that was a 50-50. All of us knew that those decisions could have gone one way or the other, even all the way up to the Supreme Court. So, you know, I don't know what the answer is, but you know, I don't know what the answer is. But the fact of the matter is the little thing that we can do, that I know to do, is to bring people's attention to at least, you know, this case among others, because there's so much misinformation out there. You know, the reality is that we can take some investigators and they can wordsmith up a document that's going to make anybody look like a absolute criminal that should be taken outside the city and shot, and they can present that in front of a judge. And apparently the accusations are, allegedly, some of the guns he ended up selling ended up in the hands of drug dealers, of some of these other,
too.
you know, but
End up in the hands of criminals.
well, guess what? You know who's the best at that? The ATF. I think a lot of it is that they're just seeing him as competition, you know, and they don't like to be, they don't like competition where guns that they have in their custody ends up in, you know, killing other federal agents, end up in drug cartels. So, you know, the fact of the matter is, and that's what this whole podcast is about, is the fact that liberty is dangerous. Look, if you want 100% security and make sure that nobody can commit any crime, which is the trajectory that we're headed on, is basically we have everyone in either a physical or digital prison where we are conducting surveillance on everybody. And we're getting into this situation where crime prevention for the sake of, or at the expense of people's rights is okay.
Under the guise of some sense of safety that's not truly there.
100%.
What you said about, you know, guns that the ATF have possession of ending up in the wrong hands reminds me of the machine gun nest in Frederick, and that the ATF had seized some of their machine guns. They're going through a whole court case right now. I won't speak too much about it because I'm not that educated, but the machine gun nest has said that they have they've requested that their firearms be returned to them for over a year. And during that year, they kept getting trace requests on the firearms that the ATF had seized from them. And they're like,
so
hey, ATF, do you have our firearms? Because we're getting trace requests on these firearms.
So explain to people what a trace request is.
A trace request usually happens when, say, a firearm is found at a crime scene or in the hands of a criminal. That law enforcement agency will initiate a trace request through the ATF, and the ATF will start working its way backwards with that serial number and tracing it through the hands all the way back to the manufacturer if it needs to. But they're figuring out where it got into the hands of the criminal. So essentially a trace request is initiated usually, and there could be circumstances that I'm not aware of, but usually when a firearm is found at a crime scene or in the hands of a criminal or somewhere where it's not supposed to be. So, you know, the machine gun nest had these firearms seized, supposedly are in the possession of the ATF, and is receiving multiple trace requests
from the ATF
for the firearms that the ATF supposedly has. So freaking crazy. Kurt says he believes the machine gun nest case against the owner was dismissed. And also with the machine gun nest case, not only did they show up at the machine gun nest unannounced with dozens of agents in the middle of a business day, but they went to the owner's real estate business to his office with multiple agents too. Just showed up, which is like, why did you go to the real estate office?
Well, and that's the thing, because they can, because they, and again, you know, when you get an FFL, you're briefed on what you're allowed and not allowed to do. Like, for instance, if I say, like, you know, 40% of my house, let's say I have, and we have a FFL here, we have one at our business location, obviously.
I've transferred almost everything to the business now.
But the point is if I say, hey, 30% of my business, this area is where I conduct business, and they don't have access to the rest of the house. But that's a joke, because you know they're going to get a warrant. They're going to go to a judge. They're going to say, hey, this guy's dangerous or whatever else, and they're going to say, hey, we need a warrant for his entire home. And of course, they're going to get granted it. So, you know, just like we've seen with the FISA court abuse, we see all of these. You know, we have a justice system that is corrupt. It is a false sense of any sort of security that things are being done on a equitable basis or you know, following any sort of rules, because they're not. They have rules upon rules, and they have all these different ways to sidestep those rules. And that's why it's so important that we understand that, like, man, every single law in some form or another is a violation of our rights, and we need to realize that. Now, again, I'm all about law and order, and we need to have and, you know, that's the other frustrating part about this too, is we see so much going on where so many laws aren't enforced. And I've said this before, that's why these agencies are going after guys like Brian, that would go after guys like me, because they know I'm not going to run. They know that I'm an easy target. And then at the end of the day, they can get rid of you really quick because you don't have the money to fight these things in court.
Well, and they know that people like us, like, I'll be honest, like, I'm sitting here like, great, now what's going to happen to us because we're talking like this.
Yeah.
And it's a sad place to be in, but you know, they also know that people like us, we have a family, we have, you know, we care about what's going to happen to our family, what's going to happen to our kids, and we're not going to, you know, do something crazy.
And they expect, and they know that
we're law-abiding citizens, and we're going to abide by the law when they come to try to enforce it.
Yeah.
I mean,
and we're going to sit there and talk to them and end up self-incriminating, and they get you on all these, you know, it's a frustrating time to live in America, because the things that I see that are happening here, quite frankly, boggle my mind. You know, it's absolutely nuts out there. What else we got going on, folks? We have, for those, is low light this weekend or next?
Next weekend.
Next weekend, we got our handgun low light course. It's the only one
you guys
this
better
year.
sign up if you're coming.
We are definitely having the course. So if you're going to jump into that course, make sure you do so. Yeah. And that always helps us out. Look, folks, if we ever, I would say probably 70% of the times, and we rarely cancel courses, but I'd say 70% of the times that we've canceled courses are because people are waiting to see if we're going to hold the course. There's never been a time that we've canceled a course where you're not going to get your money back, or, you know, or give you a full credit for it on another course or whatever else.
You always money back unless you prefer to keep a credit.
100%.
Yeah.
You know, we're never going to, you're going to have that money back as soon as possible. Give us a call, shoot us an email. But you know, it's always the advanced courses, all our tactical carbine, handgun courses, you know, those always sell out. But if you guys want to continue to have some of this advanced training, like low light, CQB,
yeah, you guys have been asking for low light, so if you don't fill it up,
I'm just going to stop having it. So those things help us out. Also, you know, supporting us on Patreon. For those of you that can't come train with us, support us on Patreon, buy from our store, all those good things. We got a bunch of new items coming in.
Ooh, we did. We had an exciting shipment today that's not on the website yet. We're still working through several brands, because we've onboarded quite a bit of brands lately.
Like, yeah.
So we're still working through. Poor Dan. He's adding a lot of brands, a lot of products, but we got a B. Myers shipment in today.
Nice.
With some malls, some of the Kijis. Is that how you say it?
Kiji, yeah.
Kijis, which are really cool.
Yeah. Folks, for all of your low light and or night vision needs, make sure you guys talk to us. I know we don't advertise this stuff. We're getting ready to change that. You know, we've been moving our way into the products, and we definitely want to start offering training as well, both from a thermal standpoint, light intensification, IR aiming devices, all those things.
I know we've said this many times before, but there's a lot of, not a lot, but there are some things that we have stock of, have product of, have knowledge of, can point you in the right
Or
direction,
dealers for.
or dealers for, that aren't even necessarily advertised. So if there's ever anything you're looking for, it doesn't hurt to just shoot us a quick email or phone call first, and we would really appreciate that.
Yep. We always appreciate all the support, and I got a lot of that support comes from the folks that are on this live stream every Wednesday.
Exactly.
You know,
Yep.
so we appreciate that. Mike Hen, Jason, TG, Top Gun sponsor.
Don't forget Otter over on Rumble.
Otter over on Rumble. Our Lost Boys on Rumble. It's just us here today, so we're doing everything here. So if we lost you over on Rumble, we apologize.
Let's see what else happened. Oh, we got several new Caracal pistols in.
I will tell you, folks. Here's a
5.56
little back
pistols.
behind the scenes look on that. For the last 4 days, I have been shooting video and actually shooting the Caracal 816. And I'll just tell you right now, I had high expectations, and I'll tell you, those things have blown me away. I did a direct comparison between a DI gun and it. Basically just kind of showing how dirty one is versus the other at 500 rounds, among many other tests that I've been doing over the last few days. So I'm literally physically exhausted from shooting, lots of rounds fired, and especially as a suppressor host. You know, one of the things I'm going to talk about in the video, if you're looking for a gun, if you're looking for an AR or a fighting rifle that you're going to be running a suppressor on, whether it's Caracal or some of the other ones, I think you really need to look at, you know, a piston ran gun. That gun is going to run cleaner. You have the ability to adjust that gas block. And I've had other piston ran guns that had those capabilities, but I'll tell you that Caracal 816, they got that thing really dialed in. Been really impressed with everything about it, the fit, finish, the improvements that they have taken over the 416 and the 516. Pretty impressive stuff on that.
Yeah, we also got some of the Sons of Liberty Gunworks 5.56 rifles in too, and some more 6 max uppers. If somebody's just looking for an upper, we got some 6 max uppers in. I'm trying to think of what else. We had quite a bit of product come in last week. But anyway, lots of cool stuff.
Yeah, no, we're constantly adding new products, constantly shooting videos on new products.
Oh, other news from today is we'll now be a Wiley X dealer.
Oh, that's I've been actually, because there's some glasses I want. But let me show you something that we just got in.
You don't get any glasses. You don't get to raid the stock. The store now has a Gary tax, in case you guys don't know. I was telling somebody today, I was like, yeah, I had 10 units, and then Gary took a Gary tax.
What we just got in, I think for all of you guys out there running Masterpiece Arms rifles, we just got in the Gray Ops Speed Nuts. And basically what this allows you to do is basically push a button and adjust the height or the height of your cheek riser or your length of pull.
Doesn't it also allow for easy removal of the risers?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So these are making a great product even greater. I'm excited to install those.
So this replaces the adjustment
thumb wheel on there.
Yeah.
Yep. So definitely go check those out on the websites. What else?
UFO says we need more videos of the War Dog. He's gotten really big.
Yeah, he is. We will. So we created an Instagram account. So if you're not following Aries the War Dog, definitely go do that.
Is that what the Instagram name is?
Yes.
Cool.
And what was it? Oh, the kids were supposed to be adding to that,
updating
and content creating on that side, but you know, I don't know,
kids.
They're too busy asking me for Robux and all this other nonsense.
Aries the War Dog. He has 4 followers.
4 followers. You guys better triple that.
Get those numbers up for him.
Go to Instagram, Aries the War Dog. What else? We'll take a little Q&A session if you guys got it. Talk about guns, gear, training, politics. What do you guys got?
Kurt, I'm sure you're right. The War Dog, although he slept the whole day at the shop today, so he's probably up there being mischievous while the kids aren't watching.
That dude can sleep, man.
Oh my God.
Come on, War Dog. I've met him. He's a baby. He is a baby.
He is a baby.
I'm hoping
A spoiled baby.
we'll see a controlled violence side of him come out at some point. I'm not too convinced of his guard dog capabilities yet. Although
just wait for the balls to drop.
Although there's been a few times where he's gotten pretty riled up by weirdos passing by.
Yeah. What I have noticed with him is that he doesn't get too riled up over other dogs or anything. It's usually people that he doesn't. The couple of times I've seen him get riled up, it was because of a person.
Yeah.
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 Well, and then cows. Cows got him super riled up. He did not like cows.
All right. Davism 131, best beginner action rifle under 1500, Aero Solus, Zarmet origin. I've never heard of that second one. I've heard good things about the Aero Solus. The fact of the matter is that prices have gone up on so many rifles that there aren't too many that are, at that $1,500 mark anymore. I mean, even last time I looked at like Ruger Precision and stuff, a lot of these rifles are pushing almost $2,000. And, once you're at that $1,800 mark, man, it's like save up a few more bucks and get an MPA, a rifle that you're going to keep forever. And I don't care if you buy it from me or not, to be honest, I prefer that. I always love when people email us or call us and say, hey, man, I bought this product. Can
you tell me how to use it?
Can you tell me how to use it? Yeah, I bought it because of your video, but I didn't buy it from you. But I'm having some issues here. Those are always fun. I don't know.
And I'm usually the one filled in those calls, and I'm just like, okay, yeah. Help you as best I can, but
yeah, folks, did you see the police raid that house in Illinois over a wellness check? What's your take on that? I haven't seen that. I'll check that out. It's you can justify, the government can justify any action, and they will.
UFO says cows scare the crap out of his pit bull. I'll tell you, UFO, they didn't scare him one bit. He wanted to get those cows so bad. I've never seen him more ferocious. Like, he wanted to kill those cows. Like, if he could have got through the fence and I wasn't holding his leash, he would have. It was crazy.
Yeah, I don't know, Kurt, on the Zermatt. I've never even heard of that action. I'll have to look it up. The coup de grace, I mean, we got lots of them. We use them all the time. I've been really impressed with them. I like it. It's smooth. One of the conversations I was having the other day is with someone is, when you get these nicer actions, I think some people are disappointed when they first get them. Folks, you got to break those things in. You got to get some reps on those things, because of course, an action with all these tight tolerances, especially when you first get it, if there's a bunch of goo and things like that on there, preservatives, or, it's been sitting, the action was made in the factory, wasn't cleaned off all that well. Then it goes to another factory like MPA, and now they're, putting it onto a different, a barrel and a chassis, and then it's sitting and it's getting shipped. There's all kinds of dust, debris that's going to get in that action. And it takes a little while for the nicer actions to break in. Yeah, there's some actions out there that come right out of the box where they spent some time getting everything just perfect. I don't disagree with that. But most actions, you got to work a little bit to break those things. And I'll tell you, even like the actions that we got, all the coup de grace actions that we have on student guns, like you see up there and over there, when we first got those in, and I knew what to expect. They were smooth, but they weren't as smooth as they could be. And now how those actions feel after running through 2 full courses of students where, there's a couple thousand reps on those things, between dry firing and live firing and just pulling out and cleaning up and all those other things. The other thing is, make sure you guys are cleaning those guns. When you first get them. We have
a video for that.
We do have a video for that. But again, make sure you guys, before you do anything with a gun, is pull that gun apart, clean that stuff, degrease everything, get in there, clean that out. It'll start that break-in process much sooner. Let's see.
Yeah, even Mike says, I can relate with my impact. Took a while to smooth out. I mean, and we have several rifles with the impact actions in the shop, and they're a they're a nice upgrade, but even those,
100%.
take a minute.
And again, the tighter the tolerances, the more a little bit of dirt and stuff that is definitely in there. That you know how it is. Most of you guys aren't pulling that gun apart and degreasing it and everything before you go shoot it the first time. You get excited, you want to go shoot it. I get it, but don't expect that action to be running super buttery smooth right out of the box. Nothing going to happen. What's up, Gary? Can you send a shout out to anyone heading to the Nationals? Sure. I'll send a shout out to anyone heading to the Nationals.
Ricky Bobby Dale had a question about the Gray Ops kit. Will the Gray Ops kit work on the chassis with just the set screws and not the quick adjustment?
I don't have a good answer for you, Ricky Bobby.
Ricky Bobby.
I haven't even installed it yet. I haven't even played with it. I've seen what Gray Ops has put out on it. Everything Gray Ops makes has been amazing. So,
And it's pretty affordable.
yeah, they're actually really affordable.
Yeah.
Considering what they are and considering some of the other Gray Ops stuff out there. All right. Kurt Colson says, by the way, you were right. The Zeiss S3 was the move.
Kurt, we got to have a talk next time you come in the shop. You never tell Gary he is right.
Yeah, man. Look, the Zeiss S3 performance-wise is just hard to beat. It really is. I think it's just such an excellent value for the money, and they don't do a good job marketing them. We probably haven't done a good job marketing them all that well. I do need to make some more videos just on the S3, both models. At the end of the day, when I look at that, as Mr. Wrangler Star says, it doesn't give me the fizz. It looks a little European, but man, performance-wise, you can't beat it. And you're not going to outgrow that optic. It's just a really good optic for the money. Heard great things come out of Zeiss. They are. They're about to release some other products pretty soon. What else we got up here?
I think we hit all the questions.
Yeah. I feel like there's some other products that we just got in.
I don't know. My brain is fried.
You know what? I'm going to talk a little bit about this. I'm getting ready to make a dedicated video. And we can have a discussion if you guys need to on suppressors. I've owned quite a few suppressors. I own quite a few suppressors. I've shot a lot of suppressors over the year, between professionally, between what I see clients come out with. I've just had a lot of experience with a lot of different suppressors. I cannot tell you guys enough, and it is why we're a Thunder Beast Arms dealer, but I'm not telling you this because we're a Thunder Beast Arms dealer. That the Thunder Beast Dominus SR for a hard use titanium suppressor. I was just, reading some forums the other day or on YouTube, something came up where somebody said, there is no titanium full auto rated suppressor that is actually passed the SOCOM firing schedule. That is absolutely not true. And as a matter of fact, the only one that I'm aware of is the Dominus. There's a lot more to a suppressor than just how quiet it is. The new thing is the free flow stuff, right? So the Huxworks. Folks, do not tell me about quiet and free flow in the same sentence. All right. Those two things are diametrically opposed, and you just need to realize that. If you want a suppressor that is not going to give you a lot of blowback, then get you a really short K suppressor, because a short suppressor that's not going to impede the gas flow, because that's what a short suppressor does, and that's exactly what these free flow suppressors and Huxworks do. Just understand that it's going to be a lot louder.
What are you talking about, like difference in decibel ratings?
I don't know.
Would you still be able to shoot without
No.
hearing
Yeah,
protection?
well, there's almost no suppressor for 5.56 that is considered hearing safe.
Gotcha.
Period. I will tell you, even on that 11.5 inch that I'm pointing at over there with the Dominus SR, I can get a few rounds out of that, no problem, where it doesn't hurt my ears. Now, first of all, I'm already deaf, so there's that. And then on top of that, I'm sure it's still not hearing safe, but it doesn't even hurt. It is one of the quietest just the overall user experience. You have a full auto rated Type super light. It's like a half the weight of my Sandman S. I've never had that thing come off. I've had my Sandman S fly off the end of my muzzle twice.
And it's been back to them.
And it's been back to it twice, and it's not going back on because I don't trust it now. And it's $1,000 of wasted whatever.
$1,000 paperweight now.
Yeah, and that over there. The other thing that I always see is suppressors that carbon lock. Folks, I just put 1,000 rounds through that gun of PMC bronze in the last 2 days, 500 of which were all suppressed, and I've never had that thing carbon locked. You turn the secondary retention collar and it twists off just like you put it on every single time. Never had an issue. So I'll just tell you right now, when it comes to the overall user experience, having an extremely quiet suppressor, having a suppressor that's going to work on multiple guns. Brooke, I believe he has the direct thread Dominus SR. And that thing is a monster when it comes to precision, extremely repeatable, no issues, no major point of impact shifts. I think you guys need to take a harder look at Thunder Beast as far as I think they're one of the most undermarketed suppressor companies out there. What do we got here? What are your thoughts on the new Budget King long range scope, Presidio 5-30 by 56 LR2 rifle scope? EP Group did a great video and it seems like it might be I haven't seen it. This is the first time I'm hearing about it. One of the things that I definitely owe the world is a long-term review and update on the ARC and EP5. I gave that, and it's still a really good option, but there was major problems with it. And as you use that long-term, you start to see some major performance challenges that are going to make a huge difference. So, I'm a little, after trying budget optic after budget optic after budget optic, I'm a little jaded on these budget optics. I don't know, but I will say they've gotten a lot better. They definitely have gotten a lot better over the years. And we got a lot more options. There's no doubt about it.
Kurt sent you some pictures of the Zermatt. I guess he's got one.
I'll take a look at it. Do some research on that. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know how much that thing costs or what it is or how good it is. 5-30 by 56 LR2 scope. I'll definitely take a look at that. Yeah, another thing, folks, with I'll just say it, the Hux Works. I'm not trying to throw any shade on them. I do think they are good for some folks. But I have heard that they're having some issues with those after, between 5,000 and 10,000 rounds. And it makes sense to me. So one of the things that if you look at a diagram of the internals of a Hux Works, you have this flow through technology, but really what it is a bunch of really small baffles. And they're more open. There are these network of smaller baffles. So what you're going to end up getting is something like, these arteries, essentially, they're going to end up clogging up. And, I know it's all the rage. But at the end of the day, whether we're talking about actual mufflers for the car or for a rifle, there's some basic principles back there. It does look like a jet turbine, Kurt. It does. And again, I think we're going to see a more long-term reviews of those and not all the glowing reviews that we've seen with their kind of initial launch.
UFO has a great question for you. It says, I just want to know how much you can bench. You're bigger than most guys at my gym.
The most I've ever benched, and I'm not there right now, the most I've ever benched was 465. I definitely can get up 315 for a couple reps. Probably right now, probably 350-ish.
Yeah, my bench sucks right now too.
Yeah, we haven't been working out nearly as much. I'm on this new fitness plan where I replace muscle with fat. That's what
I've been doing this since we opened this store.
That's what I've been working on.
Oh, Jesus.
Replacing muscle with fat.
Somebody told me to eat a cheeseburger. I've ate a few too many now.
Oh,
He said, "Damn, son, that Viking energy." one time, and this is good. This probably makes this sound petty, but one time we're at the gym. I was in pretty good shape at the time, and we had already benched that day. But there was this dude and his girl, and he was benching, and he was just like one of those pricks that was like trying to show off to his girl and was being all pretentious about it. And he was benching like 135. Gary's like, "Summer, go get on the bench next to him. Go get on the bench next to him and bench." So
I would
did.
never do anything that petty.
Well, this guy was being super annoying, and I don't know. That day, I definitely he packed up real quick and left after I got next to him. I don't know how much I benched that day, but he's like, "All right, I'm taking my girl and leaving." Yep.
All right. What else is going on out there? I think we're gonna call it, guys. Folks, we really appreciate everybody tuning in. We appreciate all the love and support. Make sure you go check out our newsletter. I think Sean is putting out another newsletter today. If you're not signed up for that, sign up. We don't spam you. We're not going to sell your information or anything like that. We do appreciate the support on Patreon. Definitely go sign up for some courses. What else we got going on? I'm excited. I'm gonna try to get this car 816 video out this Saturday or Sunday. I was up till 5.
Yeah, he was up all night last night, and he's been shooting every day for like the last 4 days.
I got about another 3 hours of video, so that's about another 150 hours of editing probably. I gotta figure out how to cut some of this stuff down. But anyways, we got a lot of exciting stuff, and you know, it's all because of you guys. We really appreciate it. So hopefully you guys found tonight's information informative. No, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. But I think it's really important. I don't know what to do with half the stuff out there, but what I know where we can start is making sure that people know what's going on out there, and at least as much of the information as that we can get our hands on, because you know, this case especially is definitely being silenced in the media. At least, you know, the family side of it, you know, Brian's attorney side of that. It would be really cool to be able to get him on the podcast.
I wonder if I'm sure there will be civil suits filed by the family.
Yeah, I don't know.
If I was a family, I would.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, well, the problem with that is that a judge
in the absence of criminal charges,
so
it's hard to.
A judge just said that it was he ruled on it saying that it was a justified shooting. So, you know, and again, that's one of the issues that we have. We have all these loopholes that are meant to protect, you know, hardworking men and women that are out there enforcing the law, putting their lives on the line. But, you know, I do think even some of the best of Americans that are in law enforcement lose sight of what's important. And I do think culturally we need to get to an idea that it is law enforcement's job just as much to enforce the law as it is to, you know, protect people's constitutional rights.
And by that same token, we have some people that are on here that are in law enforcement that are some of the most reasonable, you know, people out there, and they don't want to be those law enforcement guys either.
No, you know, unfortunately, I think you have people that end up heads of law enforcement or in leadership positions that got there because they're turd bags, right?
Yeah.
They love flexing the little bit of power that the American people have given them, and they're going to abuse it. And I think we got to figure out a way to, you know, reel that in a little bit. And that's at all levels of government, both state, local, and federal. The other big thing, and I've talked about this before, we've got to get term limits on Congress. We got to do a lot. Our America's problem right now is the lack of accountability, both for our elected leaders, but even a bigger problem with the bureaucratic class that is actually running this country and is doing things regardless of our democratic leadership and democratically elected leadership. You know, we saw that all through the Trump administration, and I don't know what the answer is, but I know that if we mobilize enough Americans and we point things out like this case, hopefully that's what it takes to make a change. Other than that, the only other answer is a civil war, and nobody wants that. All right, folks. Well, listen, We love you guys. Thank you for all that you do. And you guys, keep living, keep doing what you're doing, keep supporting Second Amendment, Constitution, America.
And like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Until next time, stay armed, stay ready. We'll talk to you soon.